Hello and welcome to another Brawl video. Today we're checking out this blue, black and green or sultai colored mid-range deck featuring Leovold, Emissary of Trest as our commander, a very disruptive 3-mana 3/3 saying each opponent cannot draw more than one card each turn, and whenever an opponent targets us or a permanent we control, we get to draw a card. So Leovold will punish the opponent for trying to draw extra cards while giving us cards in return when they try and remove Leovold and or other creatures. So then if we take a look at our deck breakdown, this one isn't super synergy based, instead we're just a mid-range deck trying to play the best cards in every category, and those categories include a little bit of mana acceleration. Our curve is relatively low, so we're not really trying to ramp into anything too expensive, but especially some 1-mana accelerants to play Leovold on turn 2 are appreciated. Then we've got some additional card draw, because Leovold may not draw cards unless the opponent enables it, so then we do want some extra card advantage, and especially effects like Howling Mine, which seem symmetrical at first glance, but with a Leovold in play all of a sudden we're the ones drawing an extra card each turn, whereas the opponent does not. And then we also have some draw 7 effects like Dark Deal or the memory half from Commit Memory, which can also result in us drawing a fresh hand, whereas the opponent won't get to draw any cards at all. Then we've got our discard and counterspell section for a bit of extra disruption against combo decks or control strategies, or decks that want to go over the top where spot removal may not be incredibly effective. And then speaking of spot removal, there's plenty of those as well, even some free removal spells like Snuff Out that got recently added to the format. We also have some sweepers to deal with go wide strategies and some answers to artifacts and enchantments. And then finally, our creatures include more ways to generate card advantage and kind of nickel and dime the opponents turn after turn to hopefully come out on top, since this is not a deck that's going to cast one big spell to end the game. Instead, we want to get incremental advantages turn after turn, and Leovold also plays into that game plan. So that's our deck in a nutshell, and now for the deep dive, starting with our mana acceleration. Chromox can be a great way to play Leovold on turn 2. Then a Dark Ritual is not at its best in this deck, since we're not ramping out a commander with it on turn 1, and we don't have a ton of amazing 3-drops to cast with a Dark Ritual early on, but it is still a nice way to cast some of our 4 and 5 mana cards ahead of schedule, or maybe help pay the commander tax. Then there's Birds of Paradise, Delighted Halfling, and Deathrite Shaman as 1-drops that can make all 3 colors potentially. Deathrite will need fetch lands in the graveyard, but there's plenty of those in our own deck, and it can also maybe use opposing fetch lands in their graveyard. And then Bloom Tender with a triple colored commander that we get to cast on the following turn can also give us a nice mana boost early on. Arcane Signet can immediately make a mana of any color, and then there's Uro, which we especially want to escape as a nice win condition that can gain us additional life and draw additional cards. Then we've got our other card draw effects with Mishra's Bauble just replacing itself, giving us a little bit of info, also an artifact ending up in the graveyard since we do have a couple cards that care about that. And then a Brainstorm and Ponder are awesome with our shuffle effects provided by our fetch lands to improve our hand and find whatever we need. Preordain, another recently added cantrip. Then we've got some cards that can turn into Planeswalkers. Tamio, whenever it attacks, makes a clue, so this is great to get in play early, and then can transform into the Seasoned Scholar, which can also help win the game. And then Jace, Everin's Prodigy, can help us loot, eventually transforms into the Telepath Unbound, which can also flash back spells out of our graveyard. Then we mentioned Howling Mine being very synergistic with a Leovold on the battlefield. Stock Up is just the best 3-mana sorcery speed card draw effect in the format. And then a Dark Deal can also be very effective with a Leovold in play, potentially drawing us a fresh hand, whereas the opponent doesn't get to draw anything while still discarding their hand. We've got a few Jace Planeswalkers as well. Jace the Mind Sculptor, also very good with all the fetch lands with that Brainstorm effect, but can also bounce creatures with a -1. Then Commit is still a decent interactive spell, but we're especially interested in the Memory Half, which we can still cast out of the graveyard with Aftermath as another draw 7, especially with Leovold out. There's the One Ring as another powerful card draw engine, have a few ways to offset the life loss. And then another Jace Planeswalker that can draw cards or bounce opposing creatures. Got Rakshasa's Bargain, which we can cast for 3 mana, and another way of filling the graveyard for certain Delve synergies, as well as Treasure Cruise as one of those Delve spells that benefits from a full graveyard, potentially drawing 3 for just a single blue mana. And then Hydroid Krasis, another nice curve topper that can draw us additional cards and gain a bit of life back. Then our counter spells and discard spells include Wash Away as a very efficient answer for opposing commanders, and then our discard effects include Duress, Inquisition of Kozilek, and the powerful Thoughtseize, as well as a Grief, which we can occasionally play for free if we evoke it, and then it's also very nice to reanimate back, so that's another powerful 2-card combo. And then we've got a few more counter spells at 2 mana with Mana Leak, Memory Lapse, Romance, and then the classic counter spell and the pretty busted Mana Drain as well, even if there's no amazing way to spend all the extra colorless mana we'll get. And then we've got a bunch of additional removal with Fatal Push at 1 mana, can easily enable Revolt. Bitter Triumph can also answer opposing Planeswalkers, same with Sheoldred's Edict. Go for the Throat usually doesn't have a huge drawback. And then Abrupt Decay can also deal with opposing artifacts and enchantments as long as their mana value is 3 or less. Got a few sweepers as well with Toxic Deluge. There's a Damnation to just destroy all creatures. And then the Meathook Massacre is back in its original form, so it's no longer nerfed in Historic and Brawl, so it can also start gaining us additional life back. And then we've got some more efficient spot removal with Dismember, can always pay 4 life to cast it for 1 mana, and Snuff Out can pay 4 life to cast it for free, assuming we control a swamp. Then there's Binding the Old Gods, can destroy any non-land permanent, and then ramp us on Chapter 2. The Necropsy also benefits from a full graveyard to collect evidence, and then it can maybe destroy a creature, artifact, enchantment, and planeswalker all at the same time. There's Virtue of Persistence, decent 2-mana removal, and then later can start reanimating creatures turn after turn. And Pest Infestation can also deal with multiple artifacts and enchantments at once, leaving us with some extra 1/1 pest tokens. And then besides Reanimate, we've got Snapcaster Mage as a nice way to rebuy all those powerful interactive spells. There's Scavenging Ooze as additional graveyard hate and life gain. Baleful Strix will replace itself, and then a nice way to protect our planeswalkers and our life total in general. There's Psychic Frog, which is also incredibly powerful if we can get it down early and start drawing extra cards with it. Grim Flayer can also keep improving our hand, eventually turning into a 4/4 Trampler with Delirium enabled. There's Opposition Agent, which can sometimes catch the opponent off guard, nice to keep up alongside our other instant speed interaction. There's Courser of Kruphix to help play lands off the top and gain us some extra life back. Sheoldred the Apocalypse, one of the best ways to offset the One Ring, as we'll now gain 2 life whenever we draw a card. And then the 5-mana Sheoldred will make the opponent sacrifice a non-token creature or planeswalker of their choice, and then we can pretty quickly transform it into the True Scriptures as well, which can also help take over. Of course, a lot of ways we can configure a deck like Leovold, since you can pretty much pick all your favorite cards in these colors and it'll probably work out. And then the mana base has a couple basics we can fetch up. The channel lands for added utility are also pretty important. And then plenty of fetch lands, which can enable cards like Brainstorm, Ponder, fill the graveyard for Delve and Delirium, and then plenty of dual lands, most of them entering untapped, as well as Urborg and Yavimaya, which can also sometimes fix our colors or can prevent us from sacrificing our fetch lands to make colored mana so we can keep them for later. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Sephiroth, Mono Black, Sacrifice. My hand has turn 1 Tameo, turn 2 Bloom Tender, and then Ritual to maybe ramp out a Massacre at some point as well. Yeah, it's got potential. Can also go for a turn 2 Binding, which is another nice way to ramp.
Perhaps there are more useful texts down on the surface.
Can expect a decent amount of removal from my opponent as well. Minor attacking, I think I still block, although it's a close call. There are some effects that come to mind that can give this -1 toughness. We'll see what happens. And Bone Splinters, alright, that's fine. And they can immediately pay the 1, that's nice. Deluge, another sweeper. So in a weird way, I wouldn't mind it if Bloom Tender gets removed, since we have so many sweepers that would kinda have Bloom Tender as collateral damage. But alongside Leovold it could do some damage, and opponents got their own Meathook Massacre. Now unnerved can finally use both abilities again. And drew Counterspell. So I could Ritual out Binding, maybe taking care of the Massacre. And then Shields down on Counterspell. I am taking 2 per turn, which is not ideal. Could also tap out for Leovold. And see if they want to answer that first. And then maybe hold the Binding to answer Sephiroth. Because with Leovold in play, they would not be able to draw an extra card. Nightmare. No extra creature to get back. Opponent passes. Okay, so that kind of worked out. Now I could also Binding the Nightmare, since that could later become a problem. Still won't have Counterspell up. So maybe I just brainstorm, see what I can draw. Maybe find a fetch land to get rid of some of these sweepers. Bowmasters in response. Wow. And yeah, I do not have Counterspell to fight back. So our opponent's actually going to get to trigger the Bowmasters here. This one is still nerfed in Historic. And then I like the lands, I do not have a shuffle effect. So they are going to get 3 Bowmaster triggers in a second. So I probably need Deluge to clean up in a way. Opponent is targeting Leovold. Although that's going to draw me more cards, which in turn targets the Bowmasters. Are we just going infinite here? I guess I get to draw as many cards as I want. Until I say it's over. I don't mind drawing more cards here. Alright, that's probably enough. So I can send that back to the command zone. And then still Deluge for 9. It's gonna hurt a little bit. Maybe should have used Dark Ritual anyway, since I'm about to have to discard to hand size a bunch. My own Meathook Massacre can offset the opponent's. So I can maybe Binding something else. Probably don't have time for the Wandering. Get back Bowmasters. Okay, second Massacre for 1 to get rid of the Bowmasters. Should probably just use Ritual. Let's counter that. Nightmare into Priest. Get back Bowmasters. I want a window where I can Binding the Nightmare, but we're probably not going to get it. Deathrite can also maybe exile stuff. Alright, so Shieldred plus Deathrite looks good. Can we untap one more turn? And there's Nightmare. Do you have a creature to go with it? You don't. And now we drew Remind. So this might be the turning point. Binding the Nightmare. Deathrite can gain life back. And we have Remind up. A rat, when it dies, manifest the dread. That's okay. Exile Bowmasters. Village Rites in response. Seems like a good one to remain. Although because of my Urborg, Gemstone Cavern still taps for black. So they can just sack the Manifest Dread to Village Rites again. Back up to 4, draw Damnation, and get a Survey land. So Shieldred could also transform for what it's worth, but they don't have a creature in play, so it's better to wait, I think. For now, just play Leovold, keep up Deathrite. Possible our opponents get their own sweeper, which would be unfortunate. And our opponent scoops it up. Awesome. Well, that was a pretty wild game with Bowmasters and Leovold, but yeah, it worked out fine in the end. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Bonny, blue-green ramp. Not a great matchup necessarily, but our hand's decent. I'll start with Thoughtseize, maybe take away an early elf. Alright, so we've got some Curve Toppers, a bit of ramp, some removal, and then Charm as a flexible answer. Can answer Scrap Gorger with Liliana, so what's going to give us the biggest headache? Might be the Archroot's Charm, which can ramp them, and then I'm hoping I can just plus Liliana a bunch to deal with the Curve Toppers. And Ghost Vacuum, not a huge concern. So yeah, let's play Signet and Preordain. And then Reanimate could be decent if I make them discard something big with Liliana. So definitely draw that, and then I don't mind drawing Yavimaya either. I guess there is the matter of a Ghost Vacuum potentially messing up the Reanimates. Hadn't thought about that. Step 1 either way is a Liliana minus.
When I win, you're telling me what you know about the...
Sacrifices must be made.
I'll Surveil on of turn. We'll see if they're disciplined about using their Ghost Vacuum, or if we can maybe catch them off guard. The One Ring's a decent card, I've heard. Can always discard or reanimate to Liliana. For now, I don't mind the pressure that a Leovold could provide. Or I can play One Ring activate and then plus Liliana. Let's go Leovold plus... Get rid of Courser. And then maybe next turn we'll ditch the Reanimate.
Drop it.
Opponent discards the Talents. Halfling, I could once again Edict with Liliana. Otherwise I could cast a 6-drop already next turn, or at the very least Vorinclex. It is still tempting to plus, actually, because of those two Curve Toppers they have in hand. So then I guess I discard the Reanimate, play One Ring, and then I can still draw, so I should probably start by drawing with a One Ring. In case I draw something I would rather discard. Ponder. Yeah, let's just ditch Reanimate. I don't think we'll get a window to use it, sadly.
Don't overthink things.
then I'll protect Liliana. So her opponent can at the very least cast Vorinclex. Now they could also go for Bonny. Still goes for Vorinclex first. So finding a spot removal spell lets me clean up both creatures. Now that the plus is less relevant. Better Triumph could do. So where do we want to start? Have to be a little careful with the One Ring, but we need some more action, so I think I'm still at least drawing 2. Although this turn I could just ponder Bloom Tender, Triumph, and minus Liliana. So stock up is fine. Still gonna stock up, since I haven't played land yet, find an untapped land, and then I can still Bitter Triumph minus. Take a Shipwreck Marsh, and Boseiju would be an answer to the Ghost Vacuum, which could come up, or I can bounce Bonny's token with Otawara. So that's gone. Yeah, I would still end up taking the Halfling out with a -2, so I think I should just do this now. There's a chance they actually end up using Ghost Vacuum to get back a bunch of creatures as 1/1s. We'll see. Still goes for Bonny first. Fine, Brainstorm. Okay, so we need a few more answers. I'll start with One Ring. Okay, that gives me a shuffle for Brainstorm. Inquisition's probably not going to be great. And Jace can also bounce the token, but then Bonny still gets to attack. So we've got some issues. So let's say Liliana pluses.
We all have things we'd rather forget.
And Jace bounces the token. And then I'll have to chump Bonny with Leovold. And then I can -2. Sure. Opponent's got their own Otawara to bounce Leovold. That's rough. Although we drew Boseiju for Ghost Vacuum. So I still get to -2 clear Bonny. Unless they go for Liliana, which they did. Alright. They would have been able to replay Bonny pretty easily, so this might be a fine outcome. Dismember can clear Bonny as well. Okay, so Jace goes digging.
I am who I choose to be.
Say no to a Hedge Maze. Draw Shieldred's Edict, that can also deal with Bonny. So we wanna probably Boseiju the Ghost Vacuum. So if I play Leovold, it's 1 mana. I don't think I need to keep Otawara anymore, although it is a decent answer to the token. Yeah, if I go Bloom Tender, I guess I can dismember Bonny and still Boseiju. As long as I tap carefully, I guess we have Yavimaya in play. Losing 4 is kind of rough with the One Ring. Maybe this is a mistake. I'll just play Otawara. And then Edict. They might let it go to the graveyard somehow for Ghost Vacuum, but I didn't think so. And then we can Boseiju. And I should have used Boseiju right away, but it didn't give me priority back. Opponent goes for Lotus Cobra first, they still have 6 mana. And now Primeval Titan, I see. Okay, so let's just do this now. Now Dismember does not answer Primeval Titan. But maybe we'll find other answers. They got the Gate, which can also seek more cards. Might see Cavern of Souls to make Bonny uncounterable. Might see other creature lanes. Archway and Fabled Passage, so it could have been worse. So yeah, they're still not replaying Bonny, even with the extra mana. What would be a good draw? Shieldred to offset the life loss from the One Ring would be awesome. A removal for Primeval Titan. A Wash Away can counter Bonny. So I could bounce the Titan. I think I need to go digging. So we'll start here. Say no to Flood of Strains. Alright. There's Shieldred's, awesome. And even a mana drain. So, an attack with Leovold could still be worth it. Just to shrink down Primeval Titan. They're probably going to take it, but then I can shrink down Titan on the way back. And that's fine. Opponent blocks. Maybe they're suspecting a sweeper, but nope, opponent takes it. So I don't get to Dismember, but I get to play Shieldred, keep up Mana Drain, Wash Away, Dismember, all the things. But that does mean they get an extra attack with a Titan, which could certainly matter. They can activate the Gate. Seeks a non-land card, we don't know which one. Counter Bonny for 1 mana. Titan attacks. Goes face. Reconsiders, goes for Jace. Luckily we have Mana Drain to protect us, otherwise it would be pretty risky if they had their own counterspell in hand, for instance. So Dismember. Gotta use Bloom Tender. Still have Mana Drain up. And now the One Ring is actually gonna net us life. Alright, and our opponent scoops it up. They won't be able to beat the Shieldred plus One Ring engine. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Kefka. So yeah, it's gonna be the battle of the mid-range decks. My hand is functional. Could Ponder on 1, and then maybe Grim Flare on 2. And then Chrome Mox doesn't seem needed, even though I could play a turn 2 Leovold that way. I'm happy enough just using Snapcaster to get back removal spells. So yeah, I'll keep. I draw into Triumph or maybe Command Tower, and then Triumph for turn, and then I can shuffle away the Chrome Mox. That seems fine. So we'll need to get a green source with Flooded Strand. Ooh, Dark Ritual. What is this? Talisman, anything else? Ornithopter. Okay, so now there's also an argument for taking out Ornithopter, but it still doesn't let them cast Kefka, at least. So I think I'm still going for Grimflayer first, and then next turn we can clean up. Another Talisman. So next turn they're casting Kefka. They could also have a counterspell up for my Leovold, so I don't think I'm going for it here. I do get to attack. Currently have land sorcery, we'll quickly add instant as well, and then creature can maybe fully enable Delirium. Alright, my own Dark Ritual is looking okay, but I don't strictly need it, since we have a lot of blue and green cards in hand. Put those in the graveyard. I like Stock Up, although it's going to be a while before I get to it. Yeah, we already have sorcery in the graveyard anyway. I'll keep it like this. And then pass a turn. I'll have to discard a card to Kefka as well. Possible it's one of my removal spells and hang on to Snapcaster, or I can just ditch Snapcaster. Hesitant to discard Courser because it's both creature and enchantment. So then they would get to draw multiple cards. Would have also been reasonable to keep a land on top and then discard a land to Kefka, which is somewhat likely the type our opponent discards. Alright, opponent's not going for it yet. In that case, I guess I'll just full price pay for this Dismember on Ornithopter. Upside, I guess, of keeping Dismember is that I could play it alongside Leovold, but it does seem like they have some interaction. Shoot the Grimflayer. Okay, so they still have double blue up. So I don't think I'm Leovolding. Opponent does nothing. Don't have an instant to play with a Snapcaster, so I'll take my turn. Land is good, so I don't fall behind on mana. So yeah, now I can go for Leovold. They'll probably fight over it, but I'll still have better Triumph up. That resolved. A little too easily. So maybe they just have creature removal in hand. Because Leovold would also prevent them from drawing with Kefka. Fell the Profane, still draws us a card. So we're up in the exchange. Back to the command zone. So yeah, don't hit my spot. And now we're going for Kefka. I guess we let the trigger resolve, or I could respond. If their last card's a counterspell, I get punished though, but they didn't seem to have one last turn. So I'll just pay 3, take that out, and then just discard a land probably. Opponent had a sorcery, so they do get to draw 2. And a Baleful Strix isn't bad either. So our opponent, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, can replay Kefka. So I should probably keep up Memory Lapse. For now I can stock up to hit my land drop or Courser and maybe get lucky. Mishra's Bauble on top. Because I would rather hit my land drops naturally and use stock up to find action. Opponent seems to have a free spell in hand. I wonder what that could be. Maybe a Pact of Negation. Delta is a good draw. Could keep the land on top once again. I do have Snapcaster Remand as an answer to Kefka. So we've got some options here. Could also permanently deal with Kefka, or for now replay Leovold, and then they first need to answer Leovold, which I guess they can, because now Kefka's only 5 mana to redeploy. Could also discard the Bauble to Kefka, and then Snapcaster, dismember it for instance. Yeah, I'll replay Leovold. Hang on to the Bauble. And we'll see if they have removal to play alongside Kefka. That's fine. So they don't get to draw. Still happy to draw a land for turn. See Preordain on top, not a priority. So play lands. Can first maybe try Snapcaster. Go for Bitter Triumph. Opponent did have a counterspell after all. So now do I shuffle first? I guess I do. Just get a basic. Cast stock up. Leaving myself with decent colors. And then I like Jace. Although I'll have to discard 1 card to Kefka here in a second. I guess I'll make it a land. Or I can keep Meathook as another potential answer in case things go bad. Because as long as we control Leovold, they don't get to draw. But if they top deck removal, we could be in trouble. A Bauble's fine. Kefka can also transform here. So then, again, the card draw is denied. I'll ditch the Massacre. Don't really want to sweep up my own creatures. So they're a mana short of transforming Kefka. So I'm kind of surprised they played the Bauble. Let's see, this is a 5/7. Can only transform as a sorcery. So a double block would be fine, actually. Let's see, what's the commander tax? It's 4 more. So then they would not be able to redeploy it this turn. So they can make me discard Jace. I'll lose a Courser, which is fine. Or maybe Leovolds, which I can redeploy. Opponent prioritizes Leovold. So then I should probably just play Leovold, hang on to the land, hope that there's a land I can play for free. So yeah, good old-fashioned mid-range battle. Boiling down to a top deck war, those are always fun. Now let's see, so this costs a 9 mana total. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Alright, so I can just Jace draw into Mana Leak and have that available for now. And hope they don't top deck something else. Definitely get rid of Chrome Mox. Tamio coming in, that's a good draw. So I can answer Kefka, but I may not be able to answer their top deck. It's just a land. So yeah, opponent's between a rock and a hard place now. Has to just run out Kefka and hope to cast it again next turn. But then I'll have a Leovold in play. And Jace drawing me extra cards. Baleful Strix has to decide now if it wants to pressure Jace or protect their life total. Stays back. Virtue of Persistence on top can also answer the Strix. How bad is it if our opponent keeps Kefka in play for a turn? Maybe I don't play Leovold, just answer what's in play, empty my hand. Could also take out the Strix, cast the enchantment half. Yeah, that's gonna be good enough here. And then I get to reanimate Grimflayer. There might be some other creatures that I'm forgetting in the graveyard. Yeah, I guess there haven't been a ton of creatures, just an Ornithopter, a Grimflayer, and then I guess the opponent's Baleful Strix, as well as my Snapcaster. Getting back a Snapcaster with Virtue is pretty sweet, getting to replay stock up. So yeah, we were definitely in control here, even if they did get to maybe replay Kefka next turn with way too many resources going our way. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing the combo of Imoti with Keruga. So our opponent's going big, and decks that go big can be a weakness of a strategy like ours, since we're not applying pressure quickly, so they can kind of go over the top. That being said, I don't dislike this hand. Even though we're not expecting any early creatures for Fatal Push, can still maybe revolt it later to deal with the 3 or 4 drop. And then I also don't expect many answers to an early Bloom Tender, so that can kind of combo with Leovold to generate a mana advantage, which we can hopefully leverage with Courser playing lands off the top and drawing into more spells. That's the theory, at least. Drew both Urborg and Yavimaya, so that's fun. Still gonna Surveil end of turn. So blue mana is the only color we need to prioritize now, as our opponent island cycles. They could also be on kind of a combo deck with a 4 mana enchantment. I forget exactly what it's called, but they basically get to cascade through the entire deck to do some silly things. So I still want to Surveil. I'll get the Sewers. Binding could be alright. Sure. Play Bloom Tender. Yeah, the cycling creature has me worried that we're about to get comboed out. Binding can answer enchantments, so maybe we can still survive. And a turtle bouncing Bloom Tender, fair enough. I think I'm still down to replay it, or I can keep a mana leak, that's maybe better. Although they're not casting Imoti yet, so they can't cascade into anything I need to counter. So I think I do replay Bloom Tender anyway. Over Leovold. Can Surveil again end of turn. Could have also kept it for Fatal Push, I suppose. Opponent now plotting Railway Brawler. So yeah, this is where things get scary. I'll hang on to Fatal Push, Revolt. Inquisition's probably not going to hit anything. So then I have to keep a mana leak, but I can still play Leovold. And then Bloom Tender casts mana leak. Plus, I guess I could still Inquisition if I really wanted to. So that's gonna miss as we suspected. So they can cast Imoti, Cascade. That's gonna cascade into their enchantment. A Monstrous Vortex, and Monstrous Vortex we can mana leak. And now their entire game plan has kind of fallen apart, because they relied on Vortex to basically cast their entire deck. Now Brawler's still good, but I have Binding to answer it. Alright, so play Binding. Can I still Courser as well? I should be able to. Play land off the top. And they want to offer the trade. As a 5-drop I won't be able to Fatal Push it, but I can maybe push the token from Bonny. Now an uncounterable Druid coming in. So yeah, an interesting battle. Opponent now off the combo plan, but still has access to some powerful creatures, and Defiler cascaded into thanks to Imoti. That's a good one. So we can still easily lose to just random creatures they have. The rest on top we get to shuffle away now, so that's convenient, and we'll surveil. Halfling I'm not gonna need. Land I get to play. And a Jace. Jace isn't bad. Can draw into it with a Strix. Jace bounces probably the Defiler at this point. At least that one doesn't trigger Imoti. Opposition agent to prevent searching could also be relevant, but opponent sees it coming now. So I'll play Jace. Brainstorming isn't the worst either, because I can shuffle away this useless Abrupt Decay and draw into an opposition agent. Although opponent doesn't have a reason to fetch when we have both Yavimaya and Urborg. So kind of a tricky spot actually. What does bouncing Defiler do for me? They don't get to add a counter to the entire team. Could be worth it. And then the Strix plays defense well. But yeah. I'll need a large Hydroid Krasis here to hope to take over. A Mechanozoa. Tap target artifact or creature and put a stun counter on it. Pretty good against our Baleful Strix actually. And gets to cascade into an Overlord. Yeah, they're hitting some good ones. Opponent actually targets Leovold, so that'll get to draw. So I can still flash in the agent. And Keruga in hand. Team gets Death Touch. Boseiju, at this point I'm just gonna play. Now Reanimate is a powerful card, can maybe draw into it with a Brainstorm. And then reanimating a Railway Brawler seems like the plan at the moment. And get rid of Abrupt Decay, Blooming Marsh. Shuffle those away. I'll just get a Swamp. And then first reanimate Brawler. I think that's still my best chance. And then now I can sink a bunch of mana into this Hydroid. So X equals 8. Mostly lands and stock up, and there's the Abrupt Decay again. But we have a 16/16, so that's not bad. Can attack with Courser if I'd like. Since the Death Touch goes away. They could replay the Mechanozoa to tap down the Krasis. Opponent goes for Galta, also makes sense. Just put in all those creatures, draw a million cards. Although Leovold is going to prevent a card draw from Keruga at least. And they actually cascaded multiple times with Imoti as well. Wow. Opponent's going off. That's a lot of stuff. Cleanup crew, destroying artifact enchantments, graveyard or gain 4 life. Can blow up the Baleful Strix. And luckily no card draw off Keruga, but I'm gonna need a sweeper to clean up here. Toxic Deluge could keep the Hydroid alive, so that's probably my best chance. And I get to search 2 forests thanks to opposition agent, so that's fun at least. Alright. Anything else? They have some reach creatures in here too that can block the Krasis, so they could actually trade for it. Draw Abrupt Decay. Now what? I can first Brainstorm and then use Stock Up as a pseudo shuffle effect. Could also bounce 1 creature, although I don't see how that's gonna really save me. Maybe bouncing Galta is okay, but then they also get to trigger a million cascades again. So yeah, I think we're just digging for Deluge or Damnation. So I'll first Brainstorm. We found Damnation, so that gives us a reset button at least. So Abrupt Decay can go, and maybe the Hedge Maze. Okay, so then I can use Stock Up as a way to get rid of those cards. Finding Scavenging Ooze and Virtue. And wow, our opponent scoops it up. Yeah, I guess they saw the Damnation thanks to our Courser of Crewfix, since when you Brainstorm you draw cards 1 at a time. And yeah, we were easily gonna take over after resetting the board. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing a Light-Paws, mono-white auras. So we want creature removal. Edicts especially are very good. Pest Infestation could be an answer to multiple enchantments. And we've got some very powerful creatures to start out, so I think I'm still keeping here. Turn 1 Tamio, turn 2 I'm liking Psychic Frog. And then if we draw into removal, great. If not, Pest Infestation can deal with multiple auras.
Oh no! I'm late for class!
Right, Curse names Leovold. I don't think we'll need it this game. And go for the Throat answers Light-Paws. So the sooner we get Psychic Frog in play, the better. Get a green source. So 2 creatures that can provide card advantage turn after turn. So now we just want to pair that with as much disruption as we can handle. Paladin class will protect their creatures in their turn. But can also maybe blow it up with the Infestation. So, Psychic Frog and Uro can also kind of fill the graveyard for each other. Let's start by just attacking for now. And then I think I just go for Jace as opposed to Uro. But both are reasonable. Signet is fine, although I think I would rather just draw more lands for Uro at this point. And filling the graveyard is also good for the escape. Don't expect any sweepers out of their deck, which is why I'm okay overextending a bit here. And yeah, opponent's just playing Light-Paws without an aura to go with it. So now we have a few options. Can start by activating Jace. Or maybe attacking with a Psychic Frog. See what else we draw. Don't think I'll need Damnation, so that can probably go. So if I draw with Jace, I'll also transform Tamio, which, yeah, I'm fine with. Abrupt Decay also a great answer. I'll get rid of the Deluge, I think. Thamio pluses.
Knowledge is the shot of
Let's just
violence.
go for the throat, Light-Paws. And then pass with Clue/Abrupt Decay available. And yeah, our opponent's not coming back from this, so we've got way too many things going in our favor, drawing multiple cards per turn. We can eventually work towards a Thamio ultimate as well to draw half of our library. Jace is about to transform, and then there's still an Uro awaiting in the wings, so there's no way they can recover. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Old Stickfingers, a one-trick pony reanimator deck usually. Our hand is interesting. We have Deathrite Shaman, which could be our best card in the matchup, assuming it survives. No blue mana is the main concern, but I do get to Surveil. I think I try it. Just play Deathrite on one, and then if a fetch land ends up in the graveyard, we can also use it to fix our colors. Now, of course, with Deathrite on the battlefield, our opponent's not going to want to play Stickfingers in the first place. But then we can just enact our own game plan. So I'll Surveil. And Swamp, if I put it in the graveyard, enables Deathrite to make blue. So then I could still play Jace. Yeah, that's probably worth it, as opposed to ensuring that I get to play Liliana. And Jace can also help put more lands in the graveyard if they're not blue. Thoughtseize could be worth casting. Let's Jace first. Find Bitter Triumph. So this Preordain's not looking great. I don't think I'll need Necropsy either. And then all I can do is have a look. And yeah, it's full-on Reanimator. So they have multiple reanimation spells, and then Avarice is the only card that does anything else. So our opponent's in a bit of trouble here if they can't deal with the Deathrite. Opponent is definitely being careful not to play their fetch lanes out, since those could enable Deathrite to make additional mana. Alright, found a fetch lane, so now we're in business. So it is still safe enough to tap out for Leovold. Activate Jace. Don't think I'll need the birds anymore. So I'll just cast Leovold. Can get a basic island, I think. And then I'm not going to use Deathrite this turn. Keep that extra mana available. So we'll see if they're interested in playing Old Stickfingers. Next turn Jace could transform. Alright, they're gonna make a move. Stickfingers for 2. So milling Ulamog and Arden. We've seen this combo a few times now. Alright, so this is an instant. So I guess they're trying to have us maybe activate Deathrite and then assemble from parts in response. But I do have Memory Lapse as an answer. So just have to be a little careful here, but I think we start by just exiling probably Ulamog. Like Arden by itself isn't too scary. Activate Jace. Dark Ritual can ramp out Liliana, so that's kind of sweet. Don't think I need Preordain. And yeah, Dark Ritual out Liliana, which can either deal with Stickfingers or start attacking their hand. And then I still have Memory Lapse in case our opponent wants to reanimate Arden. And then we can pretty easily take over. Sweet, on to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw, facing Teferi, mono blue. Of course, the Leovold would be nice to have in play, but I can't really rely on it too much. That being said, Inquisition's good to maybe take a counter spell, and then we've got some good interaction. Go for the throat, maybe still an answer to one of those spirit tokens. Now I can Inquisition turn 1 and not feel bad about it. So let's get probably just a Watery Grave. Polluted Delta slightly better since it can also get basics. Opponent Brainstorming. So they could be hiding some of their counter spells from a discard spell. I think it's still worth casting here just to curve out better. Alright, so they had an Utter Insignificance, which is a great answer to Leovold, as well as a Rhystic Study. I guess Rhystic Study doesn't matter with Leovold in play. Yeah, maybe I take the 3 steps actually, and then we'll find a workaround for the Insignificance, maybe a way to destroy enchantments. So this turn, I'm not gonna tap out for Strix, want to keep Upper Mind. And I guess I could play a fetch lands. I'll get a Breeding Pool if they force me to remand. If not, I can Surveil. So our opponent's still going for it, okay. So yeah, this is Breeding Pool remand. And then we'll see if I find an answer to this Utter Insignificance. Could also just bounce my own creature with Jace, so that could work. For now, just play Leovold and pass. Although it's gonna take me a second to set this all up. Right, opponent triggers Leovold, I get to draw. Chromox can still cast a Rhystic Study. So we just want enchantment removal, reanimates. Could be good later. I guess what I can do is Shieldred's Edict my own Leovolds, or I guess go for the throat, and then reanimate it back. Yeah, that could work. So I can only pay the 1 once. I guess we want to attack first. And Leovold's back. So now Rhystic Study isn't too bad, since they can draw 1 card at most. Opponent plays Teferi, can make a token. Can handle that in a multitude of ways, including Jace bouncing it. For now, I guess I can just, yeah, do that and attack Teferi. Seems decent. And our opponent scoops it up. So a Rhystic Study would only draw them 1 card in my turn at most, so would still maybe draw a few cards here and there, but a lot less effective with Leovold on the battlefield. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Vincent Valentine, mono black. Our hand has a bunch of sweepers, which are a little awkward with my own creatures, admittedly. I'll have to decide turn 1 Tamio or turn 2 Grimflayer. I guess, yeah, if I don't draw a land to enable the Verge, I'll still go for turn 1 Tamio. And then I can just sack a clue.
I must investigate this scroll further.
And then turn 3, either Leovold or Grimflayer, we'll see. opponent with a Signet, so next turn they can present their commander, which I could maybe sweep up with Deluge or Massacre. Although I'm missing double black for Massacre at the moment. Still down to play Leovold, and then we can Deluge for 2, which would line up pretty well. And there's Vincent. Yeah, let's just deal with it now. Can maybe attack first. Don't have a way to spend my remaining mana, sadly. But playing a Grimflare could also be overextending into an opposing board wipe, so don't necessarily want to play more creatures out. Leovold gets to draw a card in return. My hand's all removal. And an Edict for Tamio. Still drew us a lot of extra cards, or at least generated some clues. Don't have double black for Grimflare plus Duress. So maybe start by sacking a clue. Would like to hit my land drop. Stock up, that's awkward. Yeah, maybe I should just Duress now and then wait on Grimflare. Could also keep up Memory Lapse. But whatever creature they resolve I can answer, so it's mostly non-creatures that I'm worried about. Torment still pretty far from being deadly. I'll grab the Funeral Rites. Bat is gonna have a look, and we'll see what they think of our hand. Can stock up to hit my land drop and then Grimflare, so opponent takes a stock up. It's a pretty good call. Fine Jace. So I can once again sack the clue to try and hit a land, or just go for Grimflare, keep up Memory Lapse. And then sack a clue end of turn. Alright, Bojuka Bog, actually pretty good against our Grimflare. And Vincent is back. I kinda want to keep Memory Lapse for Hailfire, since we have other answers for Vincent. So that's fine. Find a land. My second blue source for Jace as well. Alright, so we have options. Could attack, see if they want to trade. Massacre for 2 could also clean up, but I guess I'm still missing double black there. Jace bouncing a creature's fine. I could, yeah, just deal with Vincent through maybe a Go for the Throat. Attack. Preordain after I Surveil. Reanimate. Doesn't have any targets at the moment. Mana Leak I don't mind keeping. Blooming Marsh entering tapped is a little awkward. So we'll draw into the Mana Leak, and a Hydroid is also decent here. Alright, so I get to pass with Mana Leak Memory Lapse. Thoughtseize is gonna have a look, but we have 2 counter spells, so that's fine. Might take the Jace now, but it also levels up my Grimflare. So I'm probably going to be forced to keep up a counter spell in the near future, so I don't get tormented. Because that thing can certainly hurt if they cast it for x equals 6 or 7. Alright, so we want lands, and Jace is pretty good too. So I guess I draw Jace, which can brainstorm me into extra lands. And then I still get to keep up interaction. So pass a turn. Can take out the bat end of turn as well. Opponent replays Vincent. Let us memory lapse that one, I think. Edict the Bat. So we know that our next draw step is not too scary. Can also use Grimflare as kind of a pseudo shuffle effect for my Brainstorm. Alright, so I don't need Signet, I don't think I need Massacre. Attack, hit for 4. Get rid of everything. Now, Mana Leak they can sort of pay for, but then their Torment would also be less effective. Vincent's back. At this point I just discard a card to the Bitter Triumph, I think. Opponent's at 12. So 3 more attacks from Grimflare will do it. Found a hard counter, so that will seal the deal here. Alright, so we get to see this Sultai Leovold mid-range deck in action. And yeah, while Leovold isn't really a synergy card necessarily, outside of maybe combining it with draw 7 effects, it is very disruptive against a lot of opposing decks. Even if our opponents take it out, we still get to draw some cards in response. And then our deck is just filled with the best interaction available in these colors, a lot of individually powerful cards. So usually that's pretty good in the 1v1 Brawl format. Sometimes there will be decks that can sort of go over the top of what we're doing if we don't draw the right disruption. So by no means a perfect strategy, but still very powerful and also just a lot of fun getting to play with all these incredibly powerful cards. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. Want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.